Hi everyone, welcome to the show. We've got a great programme lined up for you today. Now Elky, it's definitely beginning to feel a bit like spring.
It is, yes, I absolutely love it. Although this morning it was absolutely chucking it down and now the sun is shining. And the sun makes me happy because barbecuing in the sun is a whole lot better than barbecuing in the cold, rainy wind.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look at what's coming up in today's show. Coming up, Elky takes sausage roll creation to another level with his pulled pork variety. We talk cooking with fire with Mark Parr, aka Lord Logs from London Log Co. Neal's cooking citrus chicken with a new twist on a sweet and sour marinade. And we take a look at what you've been up to in What's Cooking. Lots coming up. Now Elky, you posted a new photograph on Instagram this week. You've got a new member of your KJ family. What can you tell us about it?
I have, yes, it's the pellet Joe. Now, I was asked if I would like to do some testing on it, maybe create some content on it, and let's face it, who wouldn't want to complete the Kamado Joe family? So it's a thing of beauty. I've never been a big advocate of cooking with pellets, but I've been sent this to see whether it can change my mind. So keep your eyes peeled for some content on that coming up soon.
We'll definitely keep looking out for that, Elky. Now it's time for Cooking with Fire.
Let's make pulled pork sausage rolls. What to do with leftover pulled pork, or indeed any leftover barbecue meat. I know some of you are now saying, oh, what's leftover pulled pork, what's leftover barbecue meat? But trust me, always make more than you need so you can make little treats like this. Pulled pork sausage rolls also works well with rib meat. You can do it with brisket. Something so simple but so tasty, and they always go down an absolute treat. So I'm just going to show you how I do mine. We have puff pastry, Cumberland sausages, pulled pork, about 250 grams of pulled pork here. We're going to mix a bit of sauce through the pulled pork and the sausage meat, a bit of egg wash, and that is pretty much it. It's so simple. So we're going to start with just taking the skin off of these sausages. Really easy, just take them out of the pack, grab your knife, and all you do is just make an incision and just pull them out of the skin. Dump that in your bowl. Repeat that with the rest of the sausages. I've gone for 4 sausages here. There you go, there's the sausage meat in the bowl. Now the next thing we're going to do is take our pulled pork. These are quite long strands, so we're just going to chop it up a bit. These are going to be fairly small sausage rolls, so we don't want these bits too big. This pulled pork has been smoked for 5 hours. You can see that on a previous video that I did. 5-hour smoked pulled pork, and it's absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to roughly chop this, and this is going to go in with the sausage meat. Don't have to get it too fine, but remember, it's going to be going into sausage rolls, so you don't want any bits that are too large, because we need to be able to fold the pastry around and have a nice uniform shape. This is going to give us that nice smoky flavour from smoking the pulled pork with that sausage meat. Once we stick a sauce through there as well, these are going to absolutely bang. So we're going to chuck that in with the sausages. Next, we're going to add a bit of moisture to the sausage rolls. Keep these nice and juicy. I'm using this BT Lee's Cleveland sauce. It goes perfect with this pulled pork, so I'll see no reason why it's not going to go perfect in these sausage rolls. It's a maple mustard barbecue sauce. So we're just going to drizzle some of that in there. We may add more. We'll start with a bit like that. And now the messy part, we're just going to break down the sausage meat and then mix all of this pulled pork and sauce in with that sausage meat. Just going to go in and use the hands. There we go, now we're talking. So that's it, that's our mixture for the sausage rolls. Now let's have a quick clean up. We'll lay out the puff pastry and stick this glorious sausage and pulled pork meat in there, ready to cook. Right, next stage, puff pastry. So we've got a packet of ready rolled puff pastry here. You can make your own, but I mean, what kind of lunatic is gonna do that when you can get this stuff? So let's roll that out, keeping it in the paper. And all we're going to do with this is just take our knife and we're just going to cut this in half lengthways, just trying to keep it as even and as straight as possible all the way down until we're in half. Next up, we're going to pop our filling in. So we're going to get our hands dirty again. Let's roll up these sleeves. And we're just going to try and make this as uniform as possible. Just going along the puff pastry. Remember, we've got to fold this over, so don't get too greedy. Don't fill it out too much. I mean, don't be shy with it, of course. We want plenty of filling in there, but just make sure that we're going to be able to fold this over. Right, just got a little bit of water here, and this is just going to help. When we fold this over, it's just going to help it to stick. So I'm just going to rub that along the edges of one side of the pastry. Then we're just going to take this, squeeze that meat in, and just make sure we can roll it all at once. It's going to be pretty packed, but we're going to be okay. So we're just going to bring the meat down. I'll turn it around and show you on the next one so you can get a closer look. But just going to pack that in and then just turn it in on itself and down, and that's it. Just flatten them down a little bit. So we've got the seam on the bottom, so when it's cooked they're not going to open up. Now let's try and show you the other way so you can see what I'm actually doing. And that's it, that's the messy stuff done. So we're gonna get these onto a baking tray. I fired up the PK360 for this one, so let's go and check if the coals are ready to go and we can get these in. And that's it, how easy was that? Half an hour they've been in there, got lovely golden puff pastry, puffed up nicely, smell absolutely incredible. I mean, come on, how good do these look? So, let's go in and have a taste. They're gonna be hot, don't care. Oh, this looks pretty damn good. Let's go in. You've got to give these a go. Nice and moist with that pulled pork, the sausage meat, and of course the maple and mustard sauce. But the flavour, you've still got the smokiness from the pulled pork with that sausage meat holding it all together. They're moist. They're pretty damn good, to be honest. There you go, pulled pork sausage rolls. Really simple, really easy, but really, really tasty. So I'm gonna go in, probably polish off a few of these. Thanks for watching on the Smoking Elk, and I'll see you again soon.
Elky, I think you're going to recreate the Delia effect. I can see supermarkets up and down the country having a shortage of pre-made puff pastry this weekend. Those sausage rolls look fantastic.
I don't know about the Delia effect, mate, but they are really tasty and they're really simple, so it's really easy to give it a go. If you've got any leftover barbecue meat, be it chicken, pork, beef, whatever, stick it in with some sausage meat, stick it in some pastry and create magic.
Absolutely. Now, if you are going to have a go at making Elky sausage rolls, we'd love to see the photographs. Please send them to #BarbecueShackTV and we'll love to take a look. Now it's time to see what you've been up to with What's Cooking. Elky, a great selection of dishes there. Which was your favourite?
Yeah, they were indeed great, but I'm going to be a little bit biased here and a little bit self-indulgent. Somebody recreated my peri-peri shawarma that I put up on YouTube a little while back. It's smoking maple meats. I believe the guy's called Aston and he's just 13 years old, which makes it even more incredible. So, yeah, well done, Aston. Now, anyway, Neil, let's take a look at what you've been up to.
As we approach the end of March, it definitely feels like spring is on its way. There's a lot of growth going on in the garden and the pond is slowly coming to life. We haven't quite worked out what we're growing in the veg patch, but we've planted some courgette, tomato and cucumber seeds, and the seedlings are doing all right. I've really enjoyed my outdoor cooks this month. Everything from simple breakfasts to grilling delicious ribeye steaks. And I can't wait for the clocks to change and the lighter evenings. Today I'm going to cook citrus chicken, a dish with a new twist on a sweet and sour marinade, and I'm going to serve it with pilau rice and salad. I'm going to use herb, spices and runny honey to make a warm tangy marinade for the chicken thighs, which works really well. And I'm grilling the thighs on my Kamado Joe Classic 2. For this recipe I've got 9 skinless medium-sized chicken thighs. The marinade is made up of 1 teaspoon of chopped fresh ginger, 2 cloves of garlic, crushed, a teaspoon of crushed chillies, 6 tablespoons of lemon juice, and a teaspoon of light brown sugar and salt. You'll also need 2 tablespoons of runny honey, half a teaspoon of paprika, and a finely chopped red chilli. For the garnish, you'll need fresh coriander, a lime, sliced chillies, and spring onions. For the marinade, mix the lemon juice, ginger, crushed dried chillies, salt, paprika, the red chilli, sugar and honey in a large bowl. Next, give it a good old stir and put around 20% of the mixture in another bowl, and this will be used for basting. Add the chicken thighs to the mixture and set aside for 30 minutes. Prepare the barbecue for direct and indirect grilling. To give the chicken a slightly smoky flavour, I'm going to add a handful of apple wood chips to the charcoal. Place the chicken thighs over the direct heat and grill for around 5 minutes. Once they have some colour, move them over to the indirect heat. It's now time to baste with the marinade that I saved. The smell of the spices and lemon juice is lovely. The chicken is done once it reaches an internal temperature of 75 degrees C. I serve the chicken with pilau rice and salad. It's absolutely delicious. This is a quick and easy dish, ideal when you're short of time but still want to get outside cooking on the barbecue. Not forgetting the chef's perk of a beer or two.
Do you know what, Elky? I did that whole cook without 1 single beer.
Get out. Absolutely shocking behaviour, mate. Get out.
It was terrible behaviour. Now, Elky, would you like to introduce our special guest for the show?
Yeah, so our special guest this week is a bit of a legend. What this guy doesn't know about wood and charcoal, quite frankly, isn't worth knowing. It's Mark Parr, aka Lord Logs.
Mark, welcome to the show. You're also known as Lord Logs because of your expert knowledge of cooking over fire with wood and charcoal. But where did your love of outdoor cooking begin?
I suppose officially when I was working in the woodlands and working for a tree surgeon, we used to cook outside in the woods. We used to chop through a rotten tree or chop through a piece of wood in like a cross and then just set a pot on it. And it got me, I was kind of intrigued from then really. And, you know, we lived in the country. So in the winter, there was quite a lot of game around. So that's how I first started cooking barbecue, as it were. I was cooking game. So yeah, and we didn't use charcoal at that time, and we didn't even use a barbecue. We had the rim from a truck, from the wheel. We used to fill it full of wood, and we'd have a mesh over it as well, and just have an ad hoc sort of stove really that way. And then it was just, if you're curious, I've been sort of crazy about cooking since I was about 12. So, you know, if you have that, you know, a fire going, your curiosity is spiked, isn't it?
And you kind of took that passion and you started London Log Company. Now, is it true that you started your business with just an axe and a borrowed van?
It is true, yeah, definitely. So much so with the borrowed van, I rented it to begin with and didn't take it back until they kind of came around and went, do you know what, we do need that van back, you know. And I had it initially I had it the first time for a couple of weeks. And then I told them what I was doing. And it was a couple of two brothers down in Sydenham had a van hire company. And one of the brothers had been in the log business himself, delivering logs. And I think one of the brothers wanted to shift the other one on a bit. And he said, well, look, if you need any help, he'll come and help you. And so what they used to do in the old days, they used to let me take one of the vans at the beginning of the season. And by the time I traded enough, within about 3 or 4 weeks, I could start paying for the van.
It must have been back-breaking work back on your own doing it in those days.
And sometimes I think about the things I used to do, and it almost doesn't seem real, but it was. All I had was a van and an axe, and I had a felling axe, and I used to chop kindling with a felling axe. And all season I had tendonitis in my elbows because essentially you're levering a 3.5 pound axe to cut kindling. But it grew so sort of, it was quite exciting the way it grew. And, it kept you so fit. It used to beast you every September, the business, that you kind of just overlooked it. But looking back, I was excited when I got a pallet truck to move pallets. So I thought that was amazing, So, but the first 4 or 5 years were definitely craft, that's for sure.
So who were your first clients?
So the first people properly that I did sort of restaurant trade business, which I kind of fell into by accident as well. I was Lee Tiernan, who's now Black Axe Mangal. So I built a smoker for him because I showed him some wood chips I was making. Again, I was cutting the wood chips. They were like this big, and I was still cutting them with that big axe. So it was, and I've got all my fingers still. I'm amazed, actually. I have got all my fingers. So Lee Tiernan was one of the people who kind of saw the spark of it all. And then the first restaurants were people like Beagle, which is not there anymore, but it was there for quite a long time underneath the arches in Hoxton. And then the famous Pitque restaurant. And so they were friends with Lee, and I went along and met those guys, and it was the early days when everyone was like obsessed with this new way of cooking, not new way, but refreshed way of cooking. So the boys at Pitque, we just hit it off, and we became, comrades really, and just a really great opportunity to explore. And they just used to let me come in the kitchen and go, you've got to burn this, It was good. It was good days. Yeah. But I used to cut wood in the street in Soho. Full swing with an axe in Soho. Now you'd be arrested. But in those days, they just used to look at you as if you were some weirdo, which you were, obviously. It was quite a funny thing. But yeah, now I'm sure you'd have the whole SWAT squad on you now. But yeah, they're quite good days. They were really good days, but they were tough.
It.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, the pandemic has had a massive effect on the hospitality industry. How's it affected your business?
Well, obviously, no restaurant business, but there are still some, like you got guys in Borough Market who are making pizzas at Elliott's, so we're still supplying those guys. We've got a reduced team, and, people have gone off and done other things, but we're still really tight as a team, in contact with each other, and everyone's really just anticipating on the comeback. Luckily, my firewood business was one of the key things that we started off, and that has always sustained us through the winter as well. So luckily it's been bright but cold. So, but the colder it gets, the more I smile in the winter. Most people think it's miserable. If it snows, I sing Pennies from Heaven because the phone rings off the hook. And we've had snow this year. So we can't terribly complain. But, of course, the pandemic has been a massive challenge, but it's given us an opportunity as well to do a lot of housekeeping, So, and it's good for communicating with chefs and people, and everyone's in the same position, basically. And then I do a lot of projects for things like planning for festivals and things like that. So, we've been busy, not necessarily making a huge amount of money, but things to get us by. And we've had a few grants, etc. So, we're entrepreneurs. That's the thing.
You touched earlier about, obviously, chefs kind of getting into this new but old way of cooking, starting to cook over fire again and get back to that way. I mean, how have you seen the kind of restaurant scene change over the last kind of 15, 20 years in that respect?
I think the changes I've seen are I've just seen what we had as a bit of a cult thing, it was a niche thing, cooking on fire. Like the end of fine dining was in that sort of, like 10 years ago, that era when fine dining was changing. And we started, getting chefs on cooking on fire, and it was a really exciting time. I think what's the progress has happened, you've got to remember, is that there's some of the younger people that came into the industry at that time, and they were in their early 20s. Now they've been cooking on fire for 10, 12 years. And so it's not, I always said I didn't want it to be a fad, because it's not. It's part of cooking culture globally. But the culture part has grown to such an extent that if a restaurant opens now, a new restaurant, and they don't have even the smallest Conroe grill or something, it's quite unusual. Whereas back in the day, it was like everyone just had a sort of French classic style kitchen with a stovetop, a salamander, an oven, and that was it. So it's become ubiquitous, and it's cult versus culture. And I think I like to think, and through my travels, I've traveled a lot, that it is part of food culture, and I see that as as it's extending. I mean, look how many restaurants that even just got a wood-fired oven now, that they don't just cook pizzas in. So it's good. It's really good to see.
We all know that food just tastes so much better over fire, doesn't it?
It does, and I think I've always said this is an honest relationship. If you see a chef cooking with a piece of fire kit, most of the times now it's on show. Didn't used to be, or it did. If you went to Turkish restaurants, they always had the big fire pit at the front. But there's a trust element. When you see someone cooking over fire, it can't be forced, it can't be replicated, it can't be faked. You have to really do it. And there's an element of jeopardy, isn't there? There's some part of it you think it's going to burn the food or burn themselves, or the whole thing's going to go up. It's quite an exciting thing to see. And it's about trust as well. You trust that person to cook for you. And that's about a relationship. And relationship is what, makes us tick, and that's what feels like you're actually together in the restaurant, I think. And I think that's been key to the change.
And the theatre of it all as well, when it is all on show and you've got the fires all on the go. I mean, the theatre part of it's just great as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's great when it goes tits up sometimes, It is really intriguing to watch, and you have to play it. It's, you can't turn it up like gas. You have to plan, and there's a sort of, you get in a rhythm. And I talk to chefs about this, and chefs who work a grill, and they definitely get into a groove and a timing thing. And it's quite, although it's hard work, I mean, especially in the summer, some of these big places like Hawksmoor, if you go into those, it's like going into the bowels of the Titanic. It's just, there's a line of fire, literally. Sometimes there's 3 big bits of kit on the go. And don't get me wrong, it is brutal in there. But there's definitely a sort of a rhythm and almost a meditation about it, And so, I find that I meet chefs who cook on fire, seem to they go over that way, and it's not very often they come back the other way.
I'm going to put you on the spot now and ask you what some of your favourite restaurants are.
Some. I have relationships with these people, but it's what I believe in. I think for cooking fish over fire and some of the stuff that comes out of a wood oven, I think Thomas Parry at Brat is doing things that I just love, and it reminds me, some of it, of when I go to northern Spain and I see fish cooked in the cage there. And I like that thing about, fish is almost like new T-bone steak, I love going to Hawksmoor. Hawksmoor is a great, steak restaurant. Berrin Jack's is a really nice little place in Soho. But then you get out of town and you go down to, places in the country, some of the big hotels cook on fire out the back.
London Log Companies supply quality products with wood and charcoals. Can you tell us how you source some of your great products?
So I think my key thing I'm trying to do often is my passion subject, my thing I love, is food anthropology, the history of food. So really, it's about cooking, and that comes back to go when I go and travel. So I go places like India to learn how to cook on a tandoor, and then northern Spain is a great influence for Spain in general. There's a lot of fire cooking in Spain, and so I try and bring something back that has cultural relevance in its cooking. So it's not just for the hell of it. So, for instance, charcoal, we want to use a charcoal that we are passionate about and that we believe in, and that delivers, because at the end of the day, it's a block of carbon and it has to heat for a long time and hold the fire well. And also it needs to be made in a way that you don't come back and there's a raised forest, in the space that was once a woodland. So the charcoal making in Spain that we are involved with is all made from tree clippings and trimmings. No trees are cut down in the process. So when you go there, the landscape is this sort of bucolic landscape still, and it's beautiful. And it looks like it probably looked 400 years ago. Yeah, it's a really strong charcoal making area. So, we know that we're treading gently. And then we go to France because just on a whim, in a way, I met a chef who was telling me about cooking beef in France when he was out there. And every Sunday they'd cook an entrecôte, and that would be like the Sunday meat they cooked. And they cooked it over vine wood. And I just caught my imagination. And so I started looking for a way to link up to find a product like that. But if you've ever been to France, or if you've ever been to any wine producing area, you can't just drive in and say, hey, can you sell me this? Because it's such a culture that, they look at you as if you are a weirdo, and generally you are. And I've been rejected from so many. I've been on trips. I've come home 2 or 3 times from Spain with a flea in my ear and got nothing out of the trip apart from the joy of being told to piss off, basically. So, in France, when I was looking for vines, I hooked up with a wine importer in the UK who was a French wine importer, and through their network and their contacts, they found me a fagotier at a vineyard, and a fagotier is someone who puts together the vines. And I gradually developed a relationship. But some of them are like 2 or 3 years of work to find, and, the vine is a classical element of entrecôte bordelaise. So for me to have a fuel that has such a cultural significance to a dish it fulfills my objective of what I'm trying to do. Is not just provide fuel, but it's to have things that are relevant as well, if we can, at the same time. And we do that with all the things we do. So we try and find products that also might have been a waste product. So like if you look now, when people are using wood chunks in their barbecues, any fruit wood you're using nobody cuts down a healthy apple tree and nobody cuts down healthy fruit trees. But once you understand how the fruit growing system works, trees are grubbed out and replaced. And so the wood that might have been just sold as firewood is now being sold as an ingredient almost for cooking. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things that tread lightly on the earth we live on. And that sounds like an overworn thing, but you have to think like that. And we're looking for things that might have once been a byproduct and are now used as an ingredient. So that's what we do. That's what we strive for.
You're incredibly entrepreneurial. And one of the sort of areas you've moved into is you supply the Joystoves, which looks like an amazing bit of kit. What do they like to work with?
They're really fun. And I found the Joystove by accident. It was a completely accidental thing. And I saw it. And you see something and you fall in love with it. And I think the Joystove has one of those sort of like character elements. When you see it, you know just what it's for. And I saw it, and I was in Holland, and I found it in a shop, and I went into the shop, and I was just so excited because they had them in all different sizes in the window. And I thought, I'm going to take one home with me. So I bought one, got talking to the guy in the shop, and I said, where do these come from? Now, they're made from, again, this is another recycled product. They're made from recycled aluminium in the Philippines. So all truck gearboxes, aircraft parts, and all that sort of thing are melted down, and they make this stove. And Joy is the name of the daughter of the guy who designed the stove. So it's a lovely thing. So anyway, I was in Holland and I saw this stove. I found out who imported it, who had the rights to it. And I phoned him 11 times in one day until in the end, he phoned me up and he said, I'm on holiday, for God's sake. I said, that's cool. All I want to know is, can I sell your stove? And we developed a relationship and we became quite good friends. And hence I bought the Joystove to the UK. I never set out to be a barbecue retailer, but I just couldn't bear the thought of it not being out there. So I just got my head down and thought, let's do it. And that's what we did. It's great to cook on. It's a great companion grill. It's pretty indestructible. It's got a lovely aesthetic. It's, it reminds me of a Volkswagen Beetle or an old Mini or a Morris Minor, It's sort of brutally ugly, but beautiful at the same time. So
it's a cracking little grill, mate. Cracking little grill.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad we found it. It was a good story. I lost my ex-wife in the process. She left me in Amsterdam. I went for a walk, and that's how I found it.
I thought you were going to say you traded there for the Joystove rights.
No, it wasn't like that. But no, there was it was a key moment in my life when I had a click moment. I went, that's it. And then I found the Joystove. So, good things come out of bad times,
Brilliant.
Now, Mark, I can see in the background you've got a few more barbecues. What do you enjoy cooking at home?
So this season, I'm cooking on a Weber Master Touch Premium, and I've got here a little Joe Junior. So I've gone back to ceramic. I do have one of the green ones as well, but I haven't got it here. I moved to this house in December, so we're really getting settled. But I'm really liking cooking on the kettle again. We had an old one which we had during the first lockdown, which I cooked a lot on. But I must say, if you're going to start off in barbecue, you can't go wrong. Well, you probably can, but you can't go wrong with a Weber. And that Master Touch Premium it's been great. And I'm mucking around with it and I'm pushing it and tweaking it and forcing it to do things it doesn't normally do. But I've had some great results. I've gone back to cooking quite a lot of barbecue again.
So, Mark, you're also heavily involved with Meatopia. What are the plans for this year? Is it going to come back with a bang?
It is coming back with the bang. And thankfully and cleverly, the guys called it in December, which I was really happy about. I mean, obviously, there's trepidation. People didn't know what was going to happen. But, yeah, Meatopia is definitely coming back. And it's over the 3 days again. And it's going to be big, loud, fantastic as it ever is. But, obviously, we have to be mindful of the times we're in. But, yeah, we're full on. We're full on up for it.
I can't wait, mate. I cannot wait.
Now, Mark, what's next for London Log Company?
So we got the restaurant industry starting to come back to life, the places that have got outdoor venues, and we got stock coming in ready for that. There's a number of festivals that are coming back. So I've been working on some of the festivals in the background to help sort of make the fire cooking demos, exciting and, and relatable. Our London Logco's mail order business is growing, so we've got more stuff coming to that. I'm trying to write a book. I'm trying to find time to write a book. And that's looking good as well. So, yeah, I think this year is just a year where we are going to be just, all of us, I think, grateful that we can be freer and, be out. And I just think I think it's a year of consolidating our, and re-meeting up with our friends and getting on with, the business that we're in. But, yeah, I think I'm excited about it. So, yeah, it rocks.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Exactly. Mark, thank you for being a fantastic guest on the show and good luck with all your projects.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, Mark. Much appreciated, mate.
Take care.
Elky, what a brilliant entrepreneur Mark is.
Oh, he certainly is. And he's an all-round nice guy as well.
Now, that's about it for this show. Big thank you to our programme sponsors, Commando Joe. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, and again, big thanks to me, guys. Keep those fires burning.